It's really great to have you on board in our seventh session of digging deeper into the meaning of the Beatitudes, attitudes to live by, in chapter 5 of the Gospel according to Matthew. These attitudes are at the beginning of the story of Jesus' life and teachings. And these Beatitudes for the authors according to Matthew, to the Gospel according to Matthew, they are as important as the Ten Commandments are for faithful Hebrews. It's interesting to note that Matthew 5:19, right after the Beatitudes, it actually refers to these as commandments. It reads, whoever then relaxes one of the least of these commandments. You see the tie between the Ten Commandments of the Old and the Beatitudes as commandments of the New. You see, the Christian tradition, for some reason, has not seized the importance of the Beatitudes like the Hebrew community has seized the importance of the Ten Commandments. I sort of wonder why. But we cannot rewrite 2,000 years of teaching. I want you to know that from my perspective, it's my understanding that the Beatitudes are as significant for the followers of Jesus as the Ten Commandments presented in the Hebrew book of Exodus are for the faithful Hebrews. Now, this week we explore the sixth Beatitude, or the sixth new commandment, if you will. Reading from the Revised Standard Version, it reads, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Reading from the Native Version, the Creator's blessing rests on the pure of heart. They are the ones who will see the Great Spirit. And from Peterson's The Message, you're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and heart put right. Then you can see God in the outside world. Pretty practical. You see, to begin this exploration, we must remind ourselves again that Matthew was written for a Jewish audience. And for the Hebrew people, heart was a very, very common word, common in the Hebrew library, used to describe the source of the spiritual dimension of human life, the heart. To illustrate the importance of this word, I looked it up, and heart is found over 900 times in the Hebrew library. It's pretty important and pretty common. For in Hebrew thought, humankind is created in the image of God, meaning that humanity has a spiritual dimension. And the core of this spiritual dimension is described as the heart. So for this Jewish audience, the meaning of the Beatitude was really clear. When the core of one's life is pure, without blemish, only then can one see God clearly in the lives of others. The Hebrew preacher Micah, he described this purity of heart: to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Isaiah, another Hebrew preacher, described the purity of heart was a suffering servant, known as the one that a bruised reed he would not break. and a dimly burning wick he would not quench. You see, the Hebrew people knew what the heart was all about. And this beatitude connects the sight to see God with the core of one's being, the spiritual heart being aligned with God. Therefore, seeing God in others, you see, the question for the faithful is, how does one experience that unblemished heart? Well, we need to go no further than the rest of the Sermon on the Mount beyond the uh, the Beatitudes. In the Sermon on the Mount, we read the teaching on prayer, which includes the Lord's Prayer. Many persons herald prayer as the act of changing things, uh, believing that prayer changes the outcomes of human events. You know, for Jesus, I think a better understanding of prayer is that prayer changes the prayer. For every time I sincerely pray, which in my experience is when I'm in a closet, not in public, is that prayer changes me. I am changed. For in the act of prayer, I'm in touch with the divine. And in that experience, my heart is without blemish. And I clearly see agape love in the lives of others. Another way of getting at this is that prayer is an experience of introspection, looking inside oneself. And this experience of inspecting oneself rids the prayer from ambition, unworthiness, pride, and personal gain. And Micah's words were humbled in the presence of the divine, and in that experience of being humbled, we're pure in heart. And our vision is illumined. Spiritual cataracts, which cause us to be spiritually blind and fuzzy, are removed, and we see clearly, face to face, the divine in the lives of others. You know, oftentimes that experience of spiritual introspection, including prayer, is experienced through meditation, a time when we focus on the divine, focus on agape love through reading, sharing, sometimes time alone, sometimes time with others. Just last week, I read a statement of a camper who attended camp for a week at Camp Horizon last summer. You know, camp for many is a week away, a week-long experience of meditation, reading, thinking, sharing, time alone, time with others. Brayley wrote, "When I came to camp, I was in a haze. But by the end of the week, I felt lifted and joyful." You see, spiritual cataracts were removed. Brayley experienced what Matthew 5:8 means: pure, without blemish, seeing clearly agape love. You know, the attitude that is a guide and a governing principle of times when our hearts, our spiritual core is pure, is best found for me in another version of Matthew 5:8, a version that was scribed by J.B. Phillips. His version is, happy are the utterly sincere, for they will see God. You see, the attitude of this beatitude is sincerity. We know the difference in our own life when we are utterly sincere with God and others, and when we are pretending to be somebody we really are not. And we know the difference in the life of another when they are utterly sincere, wanting the experience of agape love for all, and when that person's heart is clouded with personal ambition, selfishness, or personal gain. We know the difference when a person is utterly sincere and when we are utterly sincere. Yeah, week by week we're discovering the components of the character of one who follows Jesus. We've looked at sincerity, confidence, contentment, appetite, and care. And this week we're adding utter sincerity, being pure in heart. There's a hymn that the hymn writer has captured this. We don't sing it often. Number 541, see how great a flame aspires. But listen to these words from the first verse. See how great a flame aspires, kindled by a spark of grace. Jesus, love the nation fires, sets the kingdom on a blaze. To bring fire on earth, he came, kindled in some hearts it is. That's what it means to be pure in heart. The flame aspiring in you and in me. For in Brayley's words, the haze is gone, and we see the divine clearly in the lives of others. Here's a couple of questions for your thought. What are your own experiences in prayer or meditation of seeing the love of God more clearly than prior to that experience? What are your examples of spiritual cataracts which cloud our ability to see agape love? Thanks for being a part of our trip.